had gone off on a trip for a week or so, and I had come back. And Dan Way always liked to pull tricks.
Ray Harvey was, he was a fun one to pick on. And I took a piece of gray board and taped it over his windows when he was out, and then filled in the gap between the window and the gray board with packing peanuts, so that it looked like his office was totally filled up to the ceiling with peanuts.
And then he went along all the edge of the bottom of the door and stuck them up underneath there, so that it looked like the room was full of peanuts. And then, of course, I knew Dan well enough to know that he's crazy, but not that crazy.
I remember working in the art department, and we had a dumbwaiter, it was called. It was a little elevator, because at that time the review was like 1, 2, 3, 4 floors, I think. And so when they sent things to be approved, they send it through the dumbwaiter. And I would take the stuff out, and give it to the designer or the artist to look at. Well, one day I opened the door, and here jumps out Vern Tooley. And I screamed that the whole house heard, and everybody knew something was wrong.
I put a sign on the employee entrance door to the office building that just said, "Please use front entrance." It didn't say the door didn't work. It didn't say anything else. It just said, "Please use front entrance." And and it was April 1. I mean, people should know this thing. But I put this sign on the door, and as people would walk up they'd walk all the way up the long walkway, and they'd read the sign, and they'd turn around and walk all the way back and go in through the front entrance. Of course, I was having loads of fun inside watching all this. And one of the people that did that was Ken Wassermiller. Ken Wassermiller walked up the walkway, read the sign, turned around, walked all the way back. Of course, when he did that and he got into the office, I said, he figured out what was happening, and I told him what I had done. So he printed me out one on the computer. He made up a nice sign and printed it so that it wasn't just handwritten. So I thanked him, and I put it in the drawer. The next year, on April 1st, I put that sign that he made up on the door. And sure enough, Ken Wassermiller walked up, read the sign, and turned around and walked around to the main entrance.
We want to welcome all of you to the annual Review and Herald picnic, and it's really fun.
I was very impressed with Bud. He kind of took me under his wings in a lot of ways, but he was very energetic, very people-orientated, brought out the best in everybody. I was very lucky and fortunate to be able to work for him.
He wasn't bashful about moving ahead.
When Bud was in charge, there was a rumor going around that he would have the whole place bugged. And so when a group of us would, you know how we gather and chat, and we would say something, and we would look around, and we'd say, "Shh, the place is bugged."
People could not figure out how I had so much information on what was going on. But if they would have followed me around, they would have figured out how it happens. I didn't have any microphone anywhere, period. I found out my information by walking through the plant. What do we need to do? What are we doing wrong? What can we do better? You'd be amazed at the people out there. They know what needs to happen, and management needs to listen to them. I would come back to my office, and I would sit down, and I'd call one of the foremen. I'd say, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Did you know this? And they would say, how did you figure this all out? I said, well, you just have to, walk around a little bit, talk to your people.
And as a young teenager, I came around the cafeteria because my dad worked at the gas station, at the GC gas station, and hung around the cafeteria. And then it was Vern Franklin said, "Would you like to work here at lunchtime? I need some helpers." I said, "Sure." So I didn't realize till years later that he paid out of his own pocket to help me.
I was Orville's assistant VP for a while. Orville Driscoll's the kindest man I think I've ever met in my life.
Bruce Pierce hired me. He was a very good boss.
Chuck Lears was somebody that I really looked up to. Charlie Bird. I love Charlie Bird. Charlie Bird worked there in shipping for many years, and he was always fun, always laughing, and I remember young guys would come in the department and he'd challenge them to a chin-up contest, and it didn't matter what they did, how many they did, he could always do one more.
I really was impressed by Rose and by her her skills, but also by the way she was self-effacing about them, and she had learned how to work in an atmosphere and get done what she needed to get done with grace and style and dignity, and I just wanted to be I wanted to be Rosa.
I worked with some great people, Don Dawson, Bob Harris, Charlie Bird, and others. It was just, it was a great group to work with.
I always thought Elcio Deslandes was really a gifted guy.
Elcio, he scared me to death because everything I took to him that I had written to work with him to design an ad or something, he just hated. And he told me so, and he told me why. And I just hated that man. But gradually I realized he knew what he was talking about. He had some real background in the field, and I learned how to be a copywriter mostly from Elcio.
So I came out, interviewed, and I really, really liked Byron Steele right off the bat. I'd seen his name over the years and really admired and respected what he did.
Gil. Oh, Gil was fun. He would break into song at the drop of a hat. He had a great sense of humor.
Always positive.
Oh, just about the most positive person you could ever hope to meet.
I think we just came from a tough situation, out of a tough situation. And I think Bob Kinney was just the kind of the calm grandfather. Now, he was not a grandfather or anything, but he gave you the ideas of a father, of somebody that's going to make things well, because he just had that personality.
The two people that stand out the most to me was Harold Eyrig and actually Irma Brooks. Because Irma Brooks befriended me, was very friendly and welcomed me open-armed. I didn't know anybody here. It was so very nice. And Harold Eyrig, I was kind of depressed the first few weeks because knew no family, nobody here that we knew. A long ways from home at Christmas time it was, and it came in December, end of December. So it's kind of depressing. And he said, "Don't get discouraged. This is a good place to work. Hang in there. It will pay off." So I owe it mostly to Harold Eyrig why I'm still here.
If you've been around the review for a while, you know his name. His name was El Pester. I worked for El Pester when I first came in. He gave me a chance because he didn't know me, and just came in off the street and gave me a job and took me under his wing.
Tina Henson was there, and she was the assistant editor. And I remember I had to do a paper about, the whole what do you want to be when you grow up kind of paper. And from the time I was 10, I wanted to be a journalist or a writer. And here now, my dad was an editor at Message Magazine, and Keena was there. So I went in there and I was asking them about different things. Years later, Keena Henson shows up at Oakwood, and she became my professor.
Rudolph Varesco, I think, was attached to us because there were certain jobs that he knew, the only one that knew where the materials were.
We always say Doug Anderson was a saint because he was such a good good person. Most people who worked here kept the mission in the back of their minds, I think, but Doug Anderson, Bill Skidmore kept it in the front. It was, you could tell it was foremost in their thoughts.
Old place, I didn't know if I wanted to work there, but Alfred Lee would come in here, tell me that he just felt like the angels were walking up the hallways, you know. See, you know, he really had a very spiritual view of the work, and he'd have prayer with me when I came in there. You know, one of those general prayers like, Lord, lay it on his heart to come and join us. No pressure.
At every step of every turn, every department that I worked in, I had wonderful people to guide me and work with me, and that means a lot. The Review and Herald, you know, back in the day, and still, you know, it used to be considered family. You know, you were part of the Review and Herald family, and I think that carries a lot of weight. You felt like you were part of something, that you are part of something, and it means a lot. And to know that people would support you and care about, you know, where you are in life and what's going on. You could feel that from just about everybody in the building. It was a wonderful time, wonderful times.
But as I look back on it and think about walking through that building or this building, one of the things that's so amazing for people that don't, for people to pick up on that they really never do, is the incredible people that are at the Review. Press workers, bindery workers, these people are head elders. They could preach sermons, they could write books, they could write stories. They're incredibly gifted people. And oftentimes we look at them as functioning at a machine or in a uniform of some kind. You don't understand that these people are incredible people.
The Review is a great place to work. Perfect? No, we're human beings. The place is full of human beings who are full of sin and mistakes. But it's a good group of people, very good people, and I have no regrets about staying on and being part of the team.
This isn't just a job, this is a mission. It's a privilege to work in a facility like this. And realize that you're in the kingdom. When we get to heaven, you're going to see thousands of people that were led to Christ as a result of the work you've done here. And so never forget that you're a very important part of finishing the work.